Yo, what is going on YouTube? I am Germ here. So I stepped away for a couple days. I was moving from Phoenix to Miami. I wasn't going to have internet. I was going to be traveling, all this stuff. I knew I was going to miss out on some spicy stuff. I knew I was going to miss out on some big stuff. But as soon as I start moving, this crazy TSM article or news piece or whatever piece of investigative journalism drops from the Washington Post about TSM, about Blitz, about Reggie. And it's crazy, and I've wanted to talk about it. I've been reading it while I've been traveling around, all this stuff. Sorry if my room is echoey. I'm still moving in, still getting everything ready to go. Stuff will get much better over the next couple of weeks, but we still got stories to talk about. We still got news to talk about, and I definitely wanted to get to this. Also, we have lots of big TSM roster announcements and some really cool, good things that I think TSM is doing right now. We will definitely cover those throughout the rest of the week as well. But we can't ignore this. We have to talk about this story. And I will also say, this is stuff we have to be careful with. These are all allegations. None of this is confirmed true. None of this, is anything we know. It's kind of he said, she said, that type of stuff. Again, just allegations, just alleged stories, alleged things that are happening. So kind of keep that in mind. But we got some bangers to talk about at TSM because, every day is a banger. So definitely drop a like if you guys do enjoy this video. I would appreciate that so much. I'm moving into the new place. Stuff's going to get really big, really exciting, really awesome over the next couple of weeks. Subscribe, stay up to date on all my latest content. Consider checking out the Patreon, first link in the description below. With that being said, let's get right into this. So this got tweeted out by Mikhail Klementov. I'm sorry if I'm saying his name wrong, but he says, new. Over a dozen workers at TSM and Blitz told the Post about the culture of fear fostered by Andy Dinh, that is Reginald, and a resulting exodus of talent. Some workers may have been misclassified as contractors, not employees, based on interviews and docs that we got. And this is a really big article. Again, this came out. They posted this. I think the Washington Post is usually like a subscription service or something you have to pay for, but they posted this for free because they wanted to get this out to the people and stuff or whatever. I think it... I don't know. When I read it earlier, it was like, this article is free. And it's like, why is it free? And it told you why it's free. But it's a lot of stuff. So we're not going to be going over everything. But I want to hit the main points. And I want to talk about what I think was important. But you guys should definitely check out the full article. The full article is worth a read. And again, it doesn't mean that any of this stuff is true. It doesn't mean that Reginald's finished or that TSM's over with or anything like that. But it is some very interesting stories. It is some interesting anecdotes and some interesting allegations. And it's stuff that we've seen and heard of before. Again, there's all the videos of TSM, of Reggie, yelling at players. There's the stories of, that Doublelift has told. There's stories that other people have told about players crying and the stressful, toxic environment, the awful environment. Reggie sucks, blah, blah, blah. But then there's people who've come out and said, hey, Reggie's been awesome. I love Reggie. He changed my life, changed my career, did a bunch of amazing things for me. And at the end of the day, I really do believe there is, the kind of cliche, but three sides to every story. There's going to be Reggie's side. There's going to be people who don't like Reggie's side. And the truth is probably going to be somewhere in the middle. So just kind of keep that all in mind when you are reading this stuff. But still, I thought this was, amazing work and big stuff coming out. So they say here, in March of 2021, employees at the esports organization TSM were summoned to a virtual all-hands meeting to discuss the termination of the company's recently hired head of human resources. Head of HR, that's a big position, and to just bring somebody in and for a short term and then have them fired or terminated or whatever, that's kind of interesting. That's kind of weird. So, they had an all-hands-on meeting, whatever. When the new executive was brought on board, employees' early reaction was positive. Everyone was super excited to finally have someone in HR who seemed to really understand the employees. And, this has been a big thing at TSM. A lot of people are saying, hey, we're getting mistreated. It's a toxic environment. All these crazy things are going on. And we don't have support. We don't have anyone to stand up, to fight for us, to keep things going. So they're like, hey, this new head of HR, they were coming in. They were saying the right things. Some people maybe thought that things were going to change. People thought that maybe the dark days of TSM were going to be put behind them. And we were going to, the light was at the end of the tunnel and things were going to start getting better. And then this person gets terminated out of nowhere. And it's like, oh, no. And then that makes so many memes and so many jokes. And, we'll get into that. So they say just weeks after the new executive assumed his role as head of people operations, employees learned that he had been let go after an apparent disagreement with Reggie, the organization's CEO and founder, over a recruitment practice the new executive wanted to implement. During a question and answer portion of the all hands on call, one employee asked Dinh to explain what had prompted the firing. That was when Andy told the whole company that the HR person was let go because he asked a question that Andy didn't like. I think he kind of realized how ridiculous it sounded, and he followed that up by saying, well, he asked two questions that I didn't like. No one wanted to ask questions after that. So that is very, very weird. Again, sounds like Reggie didn't give a great answer. Sounds like something went on behind the scenes. Sounds like this HR person asked or said or whatever, challenged Reggie in some way, which again, a lot of people would say, hey, Reggie probably doesn't like stuff like that. It seems like he has a lot of yes men surrounding him. It seems like he has a lot of people who don't really stand up to him very often or tell him no very often. So it sounds like they maybe got somebody in there who's trying to make things different, potentially. Again, allegedly, all allegations. We don't know if any of this is true, but it is kind of funny. And I know that some people had said, like, what was the question he asked? Like, somebody was like, oh, what if the question was like, hey, Reggie, can we not yell at players and make them cry and demean them in front of everyone? And Reggie's like, no, get out. Okay, you're fired. Like, I don't know. There's so many memes and jokes that are going to come out like that are just hilarious. But again, who knows exactly what happened? This is just, like kind of we're playing telephone right now. It's like, hey, this guy said that this happened, and then this guy's telling us, whatever. Since 2009, Dinh has built TSM into one of the premier esports organizations in the world, competing in a variety of esports. There's a lot of stuff we know. However, allegations of workplace abuse have long circulated around the 30-year-old founder. In videos dating back almost a decade, Reggie can be seen yelling at TSM's esports athletes. That behavior extended far beyond the esports teams, though, according to over a dozen current and former employees who have worked with Reggie. Members of teams ranging from sales to programming to content. This isn't even just their athletes. This is like anyone around, anyone he can find, at least they're saying, said they witnessed other workers get called out by Dinh in calls or intra-office chat rooms and publicly shamed. Some said they experienced that treatment firsthand. No one wanted to be in a one-on-one meeting with Andy because you had no witnesses. This is a former senior program manager at Blitz. And again, it sounds like Blitz is... TSM owns Blitz. It doesn't sound like that is. TSM owns Blitz. They're under the same umbrella. So this is a guy who was high up at Blitz, which is TSM essentially. And I mean that, he said, I mean that literally. Who knew if Andy was going to scream or yell at you, degrade you, be friendly, or just be confused or inquisitive? You weren't sure what Andy you were going to get, but more people on the call, the more likely Andy wasn't going to be a complete volcano. Furthermore, multiple workers at TSM and Blitz, a company headed by Dinh that develops a coaching and statistics. You guys know what TSM is. The distinction between employees and contractors defines, among other things, how a worker is paid. So yeah, the other allegations are that people were misclassified as contractors rather than employees. That TSM wasn't giving people benefits, that people were having to work crazy hours and be on call all the time, and that they were pretty much employees, but TSM wasn't paying them what they were supposed to, or they weren't giving them the proper benefits, proper classifications, all that. And that goes into a lot of the other stuff, and that is super, super serious as well. But I don't think that matters as much in like the League of Legends esports realm that we cover on this channel. That's interesting. Maybe lawsuits will come out of that. Maybe TSM will get in trouble with the California government, maybe some and overall I think it's pretty shady and pretty bad. I don't think that's cool by TSM if that's happening, if they are misclassifying people or underpaying people or mistreating people, because again, TSM is huge in esports. If you have TSM on your resume, you're going to be set for life. You're going to be able to do whatever you want, go wherever you want. If Reggie can get you into so many other places, and hey, it's very, very possible they've been taking advantage of that, using that against people to pay them less, to treat them worse, to, fire people, terminate people, whatever. But again, just more and more allegations coming out from the stuff that Doublelift was talking about the toxic culture, the poor environment over at TSM, and it's just going to be crazy to see what comes out of all this. Now, hey, we'll talk about this in another video. There have been some updates coming out about the whole Doublelift situation, how he plays more and more into this. We'll get into that. I don't want this video to be, 20 minutes long or something like that. But hey, there's definitely more to talk about. Doublelift and TSM, that saga is not finished yet. But yes, this article, very, very interesting. You guys should check this out. There's a huge story coming out. We also had this. This is Woodbuck, who was a former coach for TSM. I tweeted this out. I said, this is Woodbuck's experience with TSM. Obviously, this was years ago. So kind of keep that in mind. Things very much so could have and probably have changed from these days when Woodbuck was around. But I still said, hey, you might find it interesting, you might find it noteworthy. Here's what Woodbuck says. He says, sounds about right. I was paid the equivalent of $42,000 a year to be the head coach for the LOL team. And I'll keep that in mind, depending on where you're at. If you're in Europe or certain other countries, besides the United States, $42,000 is a lot of money. And for some people, that's like a very, very nice salary. And even in the United States, in certain places, that is a very, very nice salary. In Los Angeles, $42,000. not going to get you very far. But anyway, I was paid the equivalent of $42,000 a year to be the head coach for the LOL team. I worked about 16 hours a day and was made to feel guilty if I tried to take 5 minutes away at any point during day and night, step away and call my girlfriend, now wife. When I struggled to manage a few of the player personalities, Andy and Parth told me this was professional esports, the major leagues, and how I wasn't living up to the quality of a major league coach. Guys, you are paying me, someone with no esports experience, $42,000 a year, and it is my first month. You kind of get what you pay for. And that's the other thing. It's like, hey, you can't pay someone if this is true, you can't pay somebody $42,000 a year and expect to get every single waking minute of their life and then also tell them, hey, this is professional sports. This is the major leagues. Oh, here's $42,000. When people in the major leagues are making millions a year, not tens of thousands a year. Just kind of funny. But also in this, kind of funny how, hey, Andy and Parth may be more involved in this whole thing than a lot of people would like to give credit. I'm not saying Parth's a whole horrible person. I'm not saying Parth, did any of the things that Reggie's being accused of, but maybe Parth was compliant with a lot of these things. Parth, a lot of people are saying that, hey, maybe he's a yes man. Maybe he's gone along with this. Maybe, he knew of a lot of this stuff and was quiet to it. Like, he seems to kind of be flying under the radar a little bit, and there's also a lot of other people at TSM. Again, I'm just saying, I think for the most part, the apple does not fall far from the tree. And a lot of these people that have been with TSM for a long time, Reggie's brought them in for a reason. Reggie's kept them for a reason. And this stuff's been dating back so far. So it's like, hey, no one is ignorant or if these things are true, if these things do come out, if a lot of this plays the way that maybe people think it's gonna. This is not just Reggie. This is an organizational issue. And he also says, I was an independent contractor and was required to live in their gaming house. Again, he was an independent contractor, allegedly not getting paid very much, allegedly having to do some things that, maybe cross a line between, the legal definitions of a lot of this stuff. Who knows? But man, this is a whole mess for TSM. On top of what we already knew, we already knew TSM was doing their own independent investigation. I think Riot or the LCS or someone's also doing their own independent investigation. And I thought there was this really, really interesting comment from Jacob Wolf where he said, hey, just finished reading this top line thought, talking about the Washington Post article. He said, what Riot does with Reginald will be the most consequential decision the company has made in esports discipline in the modern franchise era. They are incentivized to do nothing because of TSM's power. TSM's power, size, fan base, influence, so many reasons for them to do nothing. But he does say the precedent is important. And that's the thing. Whether you think Reggie should be kicked out of TSM, whether you think TSM should be kicked out of the LCS, whether you think this is no big deal, and this is just, some people are sharing like their horrible workplace experiences too and being like, oh, this happens everywhere. And some of this stuff does happen everywhere. And some of these bits and pieces happen all over the place, but everything happening at one place, and just because it happens at other places doesn't mean it should happen. It doesn't mean it's okay. I know some people have been like, hey, who cares? This has nothing to do with Riot. This has nothing to do with the LCS. TSM should fix these things, but it doesn't affect it. But in some ways it does, because in a franchise league, all the organizations are under one umbrella. There's revenue sharing. When the LCS does good, when they get more sponsorships, when they do good things, everyone does good. And what TSM does is reflective on the entire LCS, all the organizations in it. So, there is some incentive for Riot to step in and do something as well. Now, again, is that going to be fining Reggie? Is that going to be suspending Reggie? Is that going to be kicking TSM out of the LCS, making Reggie step down? Or are they going to do absolutely nothing? Who knows? And I don't know, because again, who knows? Obviously Reggie and TSM are going to have a whole side of the story as well. Hopefully we get statements from them. That'll be cool. That'll be interesting. But I don't know. It's going to be very, very just wild to follow the rest of the saga. And then, Riot or the LCS or whoever is probably going to have some pretty tough decisions to make that, again, could have a meaningful impact on the success or failure of TSM and the LCS and maybe competitive League of Legends going forward. But I don't know. Huge story. Pretty much it for this video today. Definitely drop a like if you guys did enjoy it. I would appreciate that so much. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think about this whole thing. I don't know. There's so much going on. So many different things you could have an opinion on. I would love to hear yours. Subscribe, stay up to date on all my latest content. Hopefully catch you guys in the next one. But until then, peace.